Ready?
Oh, yeah.
All right. How you doing, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Talk is Cheap. I'm Zach Cooper. This is my co-host, Brent Johansson. Today we'll be answering all the questions that were put to this time. We actually have a long enough time to answer your questions. And then we're going to give you our predictions on this week's games. And we're going to figure out finally what the Fox says. Wait, it's not this podcast, is it?
Nope, not this one.
Not bad. All right, anyway, so first question was from my buddy Curtis. He wants to know who we were impressed by in week 1. I'll start. I don't have any actual teams except Jacksonville. I was really impressed with Jacksonville, okay? Because both me and Brent sat here and said we didn't think they were going to win any games this year. And not only did they beat the Colts, Gardner Minshew only threw one incomplete pass.
Yeah.
So, they looked real good on both sides of the ball. They look good defensively. They look good offensively. I know he only threw for 173 yards, but he was very efficient and just kind of did what he needed to do. They ran the football pretty well, and the defense looked good. Other than that, I had 3 other teams I was impressed with. Washington's defensive line, monsters. Okay, they might be a little bit better than I thought they were. They're not playoff ready, but that defensive line is going to cause a lot of problems for teams this year. They're only going to get better. I think, obviously, they should get a decently early draft pick again this year. And they're doing some things over there in Washington. Obviously, the offense is still got some work to do, but if the defense keeps giving them short fields, they'll be fine. I also have Green Bay's offense. Going into the season, I was very meh on the Green Bay offense. I thought Aaron Rodgers kind of took a step back, and in the first half, I still kind of thought that because he was kind of milking the clock, throwing little dink and dunks pass. But man, in the second half, he lit it up. He was bombing the ball everywhere, and he looked like he hadn't missed a beat. So I kind of apologize for that. Maybe it was just a good game, maybe not. But as of right now, I kind of look like I have my foot in my mouth. Also, despite losing, Minnesota's offense looked really good. I came across a stat yesterday I shared with him. Minnesota actually set a record Sunday for fewest time of possession ever in an NFL game and still put up 34 points. Mm-hmm. That's impressive. Either way you look at it, Minnesota's offense did not lose them that football game. Their defense did. That offense looks like it's going to be real good. For only having the ball for 18 minutes to put up 34 points is incredible. If that defense can make any stops this year, that team's going to win a lot of games. Brent, you got anybody that impressed you?
Not necessarily the Jaguars, but Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew and Chark are the only guys left on that entire team. And, we sat here and we just blatantly told you guys that Jacksonville wasn't even going to win a game. They're going to average, 7 points a game. And they went out there and considering how they beat the Colts, they kicked the crap out of them. And I even had the Colts win in the AFC South. I still think that they're going to turn it around. I don't think Jacksonville can keep that up. But Gardner Minshew, he blew my mind. Also, Carolina. I'm not really. I haven't been sold on Teddy Bridgewater since he went down in Minnesota. But in the last podcast, I talked about, they have all these new weapons. It's just a matter if Teddy can get the ball to him. Well, Teddy showed that he can get the ball to him. And they were this close to beating a really good football team in the Raiders. So, Carolina really showed up for me. And, Washington, the Washington football team, that one surprised me because we also sat here and said the Eagles are going to just steamroll the football team. And for the first half, it looked like they were going to. It looked exactly like it was. And then, when you lose every offensive line starter on your team except for your center, you're against a defensive line that has 5 first-round picks on it. You're not going to have a good time, and we learned that one the hard way. So yeah, those 3 ones were the ones that surprised me the most.
All right. Did no preseason games play a part in some of these games going the way they did? Yes, they did. You've seen a lot of rust from quite a few teams' defenses. Minnesota and Green Bay in particular, that game, they looked like they had no defense. Coming from 2 teams that finished in the top 10 in defense last year, and they looked like they couldn't stop anything. And that was true for quite a lot of teams. You've seen a lot of teams score a lot of points. Right before we went on there, even Brent told me the only team that didn't score double-digit points was Cleveland. I don't think I remember a week where that was the case. I know it's more of an offensive league nowadays, but like you still see teams that just struggle offensively to get things going. And this week week one just wasn't one of them. And I think having no preseason really hurt a lot of defenses. But it also hurt a lot of QBs. You've seen early, especially first quarter. They started to gel more as the game went on, but first quarter you've seen a lot of quarterbacks struggling. I've seen Stafford out there started like 3 of 8 or something like that throwing the ball. And he's usually a guy who's pretty accurate. Rodgers even started slow, even though if you look at a stat line, it doesn't look like he had any slow moments, but even he started a little slow. Cousins didn't play that well at first. Granted, he only got 5 passes, but he didn't look that good. I think the only QB that looked like he was gelling right away on the Sunday games was Russell Wilson. I think he's the only one that looked like he was gelling immediately with his guys. So I think QBs, receivers, and defenses as a whole kind of struggled the most from not having preseason. But the QBs and receivers looked like they kind of gelled more as the game went along, where the defenses just kind of were still out there like running around with their chickens, like chickens with their head cut off. So, you know, you need preseason. I was a fan of cutting it to 2 games, but I didn't want it to be any less than 2 because I feel like you kind of need at least those like warm up just to get a game feel type thing before you go into the season. So
yeah, I completely agree. Preseason, even though a lot of people don't like it, it's really important for as the season rolls on because when you, especially with no off season really like we had, no training camp, well, very short training camp. The chemistry between like a quarterback and wide receiver is very limited. What you have on practice, compared to what you have on game day, is a totally different experience. Prime examples: Carson Wentz threw 2 interceptions to his, aiming towards rookie wide receivers. Just doesn't have the chemistry there yet. And then another prime one: all the Lions fans in here are going to get heartbroken. DeAndre Swift doesn't have the chemistry with Matthew Stafford right now, and that really showed on that last play of the game. If they would have had a preseason together,
Swift probably catches it.
Then Swift probably catches that football. The Eagles wide receivers probably don't get intercepted. That leads to 14 points. Totally different outcomes of the games. So yes, preseason definitely has to come back next year because it would just, you're seeing a lot of rust on teams, a lot of lack of communication. And just the chemistry is not there right now.
How do you feel about 2 preseason games? Do you think that's enough, or do you either need to stick with 4?
I'm a firm believer of 4. I think 4 should definitely be. I don't think 2 is enough because even with 2, the first one is basically like your starters are just kind of knocking the rust off for a series or 2, and then the backups come in, and then usually the third one your starters actually get a real chance to play. Where if you knock it down to 2, it's probably that. Well, you don't really have a good chance for your starters to come in because the first and the last game the starters don't usually play in the preseason.
Right.
So I definitely think it should go to 4 or stay at 4.
I dig it. All right. Best week 1 performance from the QB position, and then which QB will have the best week 2 performance. All right. So for me, the best week 1 QB performances, Aaron Rodgers killed it. That's an Aaron Rodgers I haven't seen in a couple years. That was absolutely outstanding. Russell Wilson, I don't think he made a mistake the entire game. Russell Wilson, these are not in order. Russell Wilson would be number 1 for me if I had to put him in order. Wilson absolutely was just phenomenal. And Gardner Minshew, obviously. I don't put him. I would put him 3. I know he only won a complete pass, but 173 yards kind of dips it. But he also carried Jacksonville to a game that nobody thought they were going to win. So I got to put him at least on the list. He played extremely well. Breakout week 2 performances, I guess it depends on what you mean. I'll give you one guy that I think you should play, or 2 guys technically playing against each other, that you should play this week, and they're both Aaron Rodgers and Matthew Stafford. Because that Green Bay secondary is going to get picked apart, and the Lions always play Green Bay close, and the Packers are going to score a lot of points on that Lions defense. They always play each other close. So if you have either of those 2 quarterbacks in fantasy this week, I'd play them.
Thought we weren't giving fantasy advice until they subscribe to our OnlyFans.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. My mistake, man.
I think I think for the most impressive quarterback performances for me, it was Russell Wilson just completely showed why he's probably the second best quarterback in the NFL. And then Lamar Jackson. I thought, and I've been telling everyone, I thought Lamar Jackson was going to take a step back this year with the whole Madden cover. And usually, if you have an MVP season, you kind of take a step back. He looked even deadlier in that game against Cleveland than he did last year. And with now he's got J.K. Dobbins punching in those goal line carries, it's going to be so scary to face off against the Ravens at any point of the year. So I would say Russell as my number one because it was like he's been playing. It was like he was playing in week 10 and everyone else was playing in week 1. He was just shredding the Falcons. But Lamar Jackson's right there. And then if we're doing some fantasy pointers, I'd still probably go with Lamar because Lamar, you can't stop him. Like I just don't understand how teams can't stop him. It blows my mind. So, yeah, those boys all the way.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Lamar Jackson's a good choice too. Can't really argue with that. Next question is, how impressed were you by the Green Bay offense in year 2 under Matt LaFleur? I don't want to talk about this.
Very impressed.
Yeah.
Considering how they were able to keep the ball from Minnesota for 48 minutes and some change. And it wasn't like Aaron Rodgers was just dinking 2-yard passes the whole time. I think he threw for over 400 yards. And
almost 400.
Was it almost 400? And 4 touchdowns? And Devonta Adams just feasted on the new cornerbacks of Minnesota. I said it before the season started because I had Green Bay taking the North. Green Bay is a very dangerous team. So is Minnesota. But year 2, Matt LaFleur, it looks like he's continuing right where he left off.
I'll say he's going to dip on watching us for Star Trek.
Oh, okay. Beam me up, Scotty. Yeah, I was really impressed with Green Bay, though. Cool.
Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, like they definitely proved me wrong. At least temporarily. I usually like to go off of more than one game, but week 1 for sure. The offensive line didn't matter who was up there. They kept Yannick in check, despite the fact that they lost their right tackle for the season. It was probably going to be a season-ending injury. I would need a Packers fan to update me on how he's doing or whatever, because offensive lineman injuries aren't usually spotlighted. But I think it's probably close to season-ending or season-ending. Still kept Yannick away. Yannick didn't record a single pressure. So, that's something to hang your hat on. You only allowed 7 pressures the entire game. So, that's impressive. And then, with no pressure, Aaron Rodgers he's very good at picking apart a team's weak spot. And you knew the corners of Minnesota, not that they're not talented, but they're not quite NFL ready yet. They got a lot of promise, but when you're not getting any pass rush to help, and Aaron Rodgers can just sit back there for 8 seconds to find a guy, these are the things that happen. And it was extremely impressive to watch it, especially Devontae Adams. It didn't seem like we could break up a pass that went his way. Honestly, Rodgers should have had 500 yards, but MVS can't catch. So, there's 2 drop passes from MVS that were 50-yard bombs each. So, yeah, I don't know what to say other than that, except for this offense is going to be extremely dangerous. So anybody who's playing them, watch out.
Mm-hmm.
And the last question we have before we get to our picks is, which team surprised you guys the most with their performance? It doesn't matter if they won or lost. I already talked about this. Jacksonville. Didn't think they had a shot of winning. I've kind of already went over that. Baltimore. I've not mentioned them yet. I was waiting to get here because I think as a team, as a whole, this team is going to be deadly. Okay, I know Cleveland hasn't seemed like they've been able to gel as a team, but there's still too much talent on that team to get blown out 38-6, and Baltimore just manhandled them. Mm-hmm. And I don't care what team. It's always impressive to beat a team 38-6. I don't care who you're playing. Okay, if you beat a team that badly, another pro team, you have something to brag about. They didn't have any answer for Baltimore. Cleveland didn't, and Baltimore looked good on both sides of the ball. They looked good running the football. Lamar looked good throwing the football. I don't know who's going to be able to stop them So I don't know, like that right now would be my AFC favorite. I'm sorry, Chiefs fans, but right now I think Baltimore looks like the team to beat. Although, to be fair, Baltimore crumbles in the playoffs, so we'll have to see where we get there. But in the regular season, I would have Baltimore ranked number 1 right now. So those are the 2 teams that impressed me the most this weekend.
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record, but it was the Jacksonville Jaguars for me all the way. Because that team on paper is horrendous. Like, bad. And the Colts on paper are really good. But Phillip Rivers is going to be Phillip Rivers and be tossing those interceptions all day long. And it just was shocking to see Jacksonville go out when nobody, I don't even think Jaguars fans thought that they were going to win that football game. And Minshew just went out there and said, hey, you guys are going to ride this mustache to the finish line.
Minshew mania.
Yeah. And so, if anyone out there is still not a Minshew fan, like, shame on you.
Jose not even a football fan. He just bought a Minshew jersey Sunday.
Yeah, so Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, don't look for them as, like, the 7th seed in the playoffs. But, I don't know. Who knows what they're going to do this year, because it was shocking.
They won't make the playoffs. But they might be more competitive than a lot of people think. It might make for some exciting football to watch. Which is more than you can say for the majority of Jacksonville's years for the past 20 years. So, because they've usually been one of the more boring teams in football.
I think we did have a question on there before we get to the picks. Who are the Jets facing this week? It was this guy right here.
Well, the Jets bounced back. Yeah, but we're gonna get to that with my picks. That's why I skipped.
That was gonna be a super short one.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll get to the Jets question, George. I seen your question. I'm gonna get to it for sure, but.
All right, you guys ready for our week 2 picks?
Okay, last week Brent got me 10-6 last week, 8-8 last week. I totally Jason Garrett last week. So week 1's one of the harder weeks to pick of the NFL season. So hopefully I'm just gonna sweep that one under the rug and we're gonna do better. We'll start out with tomorrow's game, Cincinnati at Cleveland. Brent, let's lead us off, and we'll just switch every other.
All right, so I have the Cleveland Browns winning this football game. They got absolutely embarrassed by the Baltimore Ravens. And on paper, the Browns should win like 12 football games. They have such a star-powered offense, and I cannot pronounce the coach's name for the Browns right now. He came from Minnesota. But hopefully he gets things clicking because Chubb should be running all over that Cincinnati defense. Odell should have 100 yards. Jarvis Landry should have 10 catches. This should, in my eyes, this should not be a close football game. I got Browns big. 2
of the Bengals defensive linemen are out too, which is good for the Browns running game. So, yeah. But I'm picking the Bengals in this game because I was quite impressed with Joe Burrow last week. I know they didn't win, but Burrow did everything that he should have did to win that football game, and his teammates let him down. And I hate throwing teammates under the bus, but that's just how it was. Joe Burrow let him right down the field when he should have, and it's impressive for a day 1 rookie to do in this league. Not only he threw the game-winning TD pass and got offensive pass interference, and then got him in game-tying field goal range, and they missed the game-tying field goal. I mean, the guy was pretty impressive. I know he didn't light up the stat sheet, but for a day 1 starter, he looked pretty comfortable. But Cleveland's got a lot of weapons, right? So it made it really hard for me to pick against them. But I've been riding this Cleveland's going to be good bandwagon into the fucking ground, man. And I'm tired of it, okay? I'm jumping off. Until they can prove to me that they can win games, I ain't picking them anymore. I'm picking the Bengals. The Bengals beat them to close out the season last year when they only had 1 win. How embarrassing. That was the dagger in Freddie Kitchens, you're out of here. Right? So, right now the Bengals are on a 1-game win streak against Cleveland. So, riding the hot train. I got Bengals just because they looked more comfortable last week. Cleveland didn't gel. I hear they're trying to shell out OBJ, which might mean they might be trying to rebuild again, which is crazy because that team's super young. But who knows what's going on there? Jarvis Landry's questionable. So if you got a OBJ that now is finding out that he's being shopped and no Landry, that could spell doom for Cleveland. So Cincinnati here. Next game we got Giants at Chicago. I'm going to take the Bears in this game. I can't believe I'm picking Mr. Trubisky to win 2 games in a row. But I think the Bears defense is going to just shit on this Giants offense. The Giants did not really impress me Monday night. I picked Pittsburgh, so I got it right, but I thought it was going to be like more competitive than it was. It was pretty competitive for the first half, and then the second half Pittsburgh just kind of took it. And the Giants offense just looked awful. I mean, they had a 18-play drive or 19-play drive or something, like they didn't score any points. Like I've never seen that before. I don't remember a drive ever being that long and not coming up with something. They just got a lot of work to do. Saquon Barkley only 6 yards rushing. I do not expect that to happen again. Okay, all greats have bad games like that. I remember AP in his prime having a 14-carry, 3-yard game against the 49ers on Monday night. Mm-hmm. Coincidentally, it was an opening Monday night game, just like Saquon Barkley just did. Yeah. So I don't expect that again, but this Bears defense is no joke. They got a lot of good players on that defense. Mitch Trubisky just threw 3 touchdowns and is riding high now, so all in the fourth quarter, might I add. So he's really feeling like the heroics right now, and he might be like riding that wave. I expect kind of a like sloppy 16-13 type game. But I just think the defense is going to be too much. Daniel Jones is still doesn't look the most comfortable out there. Some drives he looks great, some drives he's sloppy, and you can't have that against a defense like the Bears because they're going to eat you alive.
Yeah, I have the New York Football Giants taking this game. As long as Mitch Trubisky is under center for the Bears, it's going to be really hard for me to pick them to win football games. Detroit's defense is horrendous. Like, one of the worst I've ever seen in football. And that's probably the only reason why the Bears ended up coming back in that game.
And they're A-string corners.
Yeah, and they were one dropped pass against from losing to Detroit. So the Giants' defense isn't great, but it's better than Detroit. So I think Trubisky's going to struggle there. It's not going to be a good-looking football game. It's going to be very, very ugly. But I have the Giants taking that game.
Oh, I seen a stat, by the way. 72 20-plus yard plays for Detroit's defense last year. 72. What the hell?
Dallas and Atlanta. This one hurts the heart, but I have the Dallas Cowboys righting the ship and winning that game at home. I know that Dak is no Russell Wilson, but Russell Wilson is able to just have his way with that Atlanta defense. And as much as I believe that the Cowboys have a problem where they can't score with all these offensive weapons, it's going to be hard for Atlanta to cover everybody. Or if they cover everybody, Zeke is just going to run wild. So I see this. It's not going to be as bad as what the Seahawks did to the Falcons, but I think that Dallas takes it by at least 10 points. I think it's going to be a convincing win.
Yeah, I picked Dallas here too. They struggled against the Rams, but I think Aaron Donald kind of made them struggle. It was, he was just a force against the Cowboys. Falcons don't have nobody like Aaron Donald. That defense gave up a ton of big plays to Russell Wilson and the Seahawks offense. Dallas has got too many weapons for that Falcons defense, and I think it's going to be a rough day. I definitely think Dallas bounces back, and they're going to look a lot better in this game. They might still not be great, but they're going to look great just this week for sure. And the Falcons are super inconsistent. You never know what you're going to get from their offense either. One week they light the scoreboard up with 38 points. The next week they score 9. It's like, what's going on here? They didn't look that good against Seattle, so maybe this is the week they break out, but I'm not buying it yet. Show it to me first. Dallas just has too much to bet against right now in that game, so Dallas. All right, Detroit at Green Bay. The obvious pick here is Green Bay. Detroit doesn't have a lot of luck at Green Bay in the history of their team. I know there's no fans, but still outdoors. Detroit plays inside. Anything can happen. It's we got a cold front going through. It's maybe a little chilly. But the problem is here, in all honesty, is the fact that Detroit's got nobody to cover anybody. So Okuda's going to get his first start, so we'll see how that goes. But the rest of their corners are all dinged up. Don't expect this to be a blowout, okay? Detroit has a history of competing with Green Bay every game that they play. It'll be right now to the end. Lions fans will get all excited because they're in the game. They're going to beat Green Bay, and something will happen. They'll blow it. This is what they do. The Lions might be one of the most exciting teams to watch in football because they always lose some fascinating, crazy way. That's the sign of a bad football team. So that's what's going to happen again this week. I expect high 30 score here. But just there's not enough talent on Detroit's defense to stop Green Bay from making that game-winning drive at the end. It's just not going to happen. Both offenses will look good, especially if Kenny G's back. Green Bay's defense ain't that good. So expect a fun football game, but don't expect the Lions to win this game.
Yeah, the Lions need Kenny Galladay back, and I need Kenny Galladay back for my fantasy team. But no, Detroit is not going to win this football game. If there's any bettors in here, hit me up. But I think that it's going to be a very, very, very one-sided game. And if the Packers can put up that many points on Minnesota, imagine what they're going to do to Detroit. Detroit's defense, like I said a couple minutes ago, is bad. And Aaron Rodgers is going to take advantage of that. For Okuda's sake, for his confidence, I hope he doesn't line up on Devontae Adams because that's going to be a baptism by fire. And I know that they traditionally play the games close. I don't see it as this case. I think this is the first nail in Matt Patricia's coffin for the season. Is
last week wasn't the first nail?
No, that because a rookie drop pass, you can't blame the head coach for that. But when you give up 50 points to Green Bay, it's gonna start. It's gonna start it. So I have the Packers win it big.
Okay, so next game we got Jacksonville, Tennessee.
Jacksonville, Tennessee. Oh, I wanted to go Minshew mania here, but I couldn't do it because I'm still a believer that it's a bad football team. And as much as I don't think the Titans are a good football team, I think they're good enough to beat Jacksonville as long as it doesn't come to Gostkowski kicking field goals. So as long as he doesn't have to kick field goals to win that football game, I think Derrick Henry is just gonna eat all day.
Yeah, I'm with him. I'm picking Tennessee. The key to this game is stopping Derrick Henry, and Jacksonville doesn't have anybody that can stop Derrick Henry.
Can you name like 2 starters on their defense?
Not anymore. I could at the beginning of last year. Like I don't know what's happened since then. But fire sale. Derrick Henry's gonna have a monster game, and anybody who has him in fantasy is gonna love him this week because he's gonna have probably his best 2 games of his season are gonna be against Jacksonville.
Oh yeah.
I mean he'll have a lot of good games, but these ones, like, this is the worst whole defense that he's gonna face, which is crazy that the Colts can only score what they scored against Jacksonville because, like, Phillip Rivers should have been able to light that team up, and he didn't. All right, so Indy might be a little worried that they might have a washed quarterback on their hand. We'll find out. It's just one game, but that's worrisome if you're a Colts fan. But there's no way they're going to stop Derrick Henry. I expect 150 yards on the ground, and that's only if he stops running in the fourth quarter and they bring in somebody else, or it could wind up being close to north of 200.
Yeah.
So expect a lot of TDs on the ground here. Expect Ryan Tannehill to have like 15 pass attempts if he has to do that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I just expect a sloppy 20-10 dominated ground game from Tennessee in this game.
Yeah.
Damn phone. So next game, Minnesota and Indy. What's crazy about this, okay, is Vegas has Indy as a 3-point favorite in this game after losing to a team that nobody thought was going to win any games. Like, I know Minnesota gave up 43 points last week, but they didn't lose to Jacksonville, okay? They lost to Green Bay, who was in the NFC Championship game, by 9. Like, this game is going to be a blowout, okay? Minnesota's offense, I just talked about earlier, what I was impressed about, right? Scored 34 points in 18 minutes. Phillip Rivers couldn't score hardly 20 points on Jacksonville's defense. So, who I can't name a single person on. So it's going to be troublesome for the Indy defense in this game. Not to mention, they're playing against Xavier Rhodes, who Kirk Cousins is going to know how to torch the entire game. Okay, so expect him to be picked on a lot. Phillip Rivers might look better in this game because of the Vikings rookie corners and now no Danielle Hunter. I don't expect him to look as sloppy or throw 2 interceptions like he did here, but there's going to be no way for them to stop the Vikings offense. Like, don't expect them to be punting too many times. They'll pretty much just march down the field in this Indy defense. So expect the Vikings to win a pretty handled game, I guess is the best way to put it. They'll win decisively. It won't be close.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat as Coop here. Minnesota, even though they gave up over, I can't remember, 40 points.
43.
Yeah, gave up 43 points to the Packers. They're not a bad football team. They had less than 20 minutes time possessions to put up over 30 points. The Colts are not going to be able to keep Minnesota off the field on offense. And so I think that Minnesota is going to win very convincingly. I don't think it's going to be a blowout because there's still weapons on Indianapolis, but they just lost their starting running back for the year. Philip Rivers looks like he can't hit anyone. I think Minnesota wins it by 2 touchdowns.
Fair enough. Buffalo at Miami.
Oh, Buffalo. Buffalo looked great week 1. Granted, it was against the Jets, and I think the Dolphins are better than the Jets, but I don't think this is going to be a very close game. Buffalo looks like they're in mid-season form right now, and
they look good.
I don't think that Miami has the team to keep up with Buffalo. It's not going to be a good-looking game. Probably 27-28 to 10.
Packers fans. Yeah, I'm going to take Buffalo too. Josh Allen looks like he has been working with his receivers despite the fact they weren't supposed to be, because that's how gelled they were. And Josh Allen's not the most accurate quarterback ever, but he was hitting his receivers money last weekend, okay? Him and Diggs look like they've been playing on the same team their entire career. I do think Miami's a better football team than the Jets. I was drawing a blank there for a second. I do think Miami's a better football team than the Jets. Look, New England, who a lot of people still think is like an 10-11 win team, Miami had to throw 3 picks, and New England still didn't win that game by a lot. It looked like 10 points. The game was closer than 10 points. The game was pretty decisively. That TV was right in front of me at Buffalo Wild Wings, so I spent a lot of time watching that game. They're not a good team by any means, but they're definitely, based on what I've seen Sunday, they're definitely better than the Jets. So I expect this to be a closer game. In Buffalo, I think they're gonna struggle a little bit in this game. I think they're gonna win, but I don't expect a blowout. I expect a 3-point game in this game where division rivals do that, especially ones that aren't horrible. Like, I think Miami's pretty decently solid football team. I think their coach, he's a pretty good coach. With what he did with Miami last year, with having hardly any talent and everybody thinking they were going to lose every game, I think he's a pretty solid coach. They got a good one there. So he just keeps them in games. Like, I don't think that they're nearly as talented as New England has, and they still kept in that game. It was a 3-point game for most of the game. So yeah, I think it'll be tighter. I think Buffalo wins by 3, maybe 10 if they score towards the end of the game. But expect competitive throughout most of the game. But Buffalo is just too good, and that defense is too good. Fitzpatrick will probably have another rough day. Maybe expect to see Tua soon. So that's what I got for that. San Francisco and the Jets. George, we're on to your question about the Jets bouncing back. No. They're not going to. I know you want them to, and I know you guys are a believer in Darnold, but I've said before, I said this on a podcast before the season started, it's not Darnold, it's Adam Gase. And until you get Gase out of there, this team is never going to win. He handcuffs his players, and he makes his players hate playing there, which is not good, right? How are you ever going to win football games if your players don't even want to play? So they're never going to beat a team with as much talent as San Francisco with that kind of attitude and coaching. Darnold, I feel bad for him because I was a true believer that he wasn't very good when he came into the league, but I think I've seen his games, and his stats don't blow you out of the water, but I've seen what he can do in certain situations, and Adam Gase, I think, really holds him back. Just watching the play calling, watching his attitude out on the field, I just don't think he wants to play for him. I mean, he's not the type of guy who's ever going to say that. But I really, based on his demeanor, don't feel like he really believes in the coaching or the atmosphere that his team has around there. And I think San Francisco, despite losing to Arizona, which I told everybody last week was a bad matchup for them, is a really good football team coming off a Super Bowl appearance. And I just think there's too much talent on that San Francisco team for the Jets to even compete in this game. So I expect a 34-10 type game. So Jets fans get ready for another rough afternoon.
I don't even have the Jets scoring 10 points in this game. I think this is going to be the first shutout of the NFL season. Bold pick right there. But the Jets are not good. They're just, it's Adam Gase. He's got bad culture there. Nobody wants to play for him. Le'Veon's out, so you're going to have like a 72-year-old running back pounding the rock against his former team. And it's just not going to be good. I don't see where the Jets are going to be able to put any points on the board. If they won't score a touchdown, but they might get a field goal. I don't even think that's going to be the case. It's going to be very ugly. And that sucks for Jets fans because, you have all this promise, but as long as that head coach is there, you guys are just going to be going in the wrong direction.
Yeah, he's ruining y'all. I've never seen a guy that's so incompetent in football. All right, Rams, Philly.
All right. So, interesting stat fact of the day. Sean McVay has never beaten the Philadelphia Eagles. Don't look for it to happen this week. I know that Aaron Donald is an absolute freak, and the Eagles gave up 8 sacks last week. But the Eagles are getting 2 of their offensive linemen back. And Aaron Donald has never sacked Carson Wentz. So that's an interesting fact because he always is protected by Lane Johnson. Lane Johnson's back this week. Philly and LA always have a shootout. It's always a high-scoring game. Look for that again. If your guys are bettors, bet the over on that game. Whatever they give you, just take the over because it's going to happen. But Philly doesn't lose to LA, and it's not going to happen this week.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with it. Brent posted something in one of my group chats this morning about it. I had to do some research. I did see that's true, but I feel like something's not clicking in Philly, and I kind of feel bad for Carson Wentz because it isn't him, despite what a lot of, I think it's mainly Cowboys fans say about him online.
They wish they had Wentz.
Because he's a great quarterback. And I tell the Eagles fans the same thing about Dak. I think they're pretty on par with each other. I think both of them are very good quarterbacks, and neither one of them are really to blame for their team's successes. But I've seen Carson do more with less than what Dak has done with his talent. So I would put Carson above Dak if I had to rank them. So it's not Carson. I think the Eagles really get bit by a lot of injuries, and I think that winds up with a lot of their problems. And last year, Carson had to carry this team to the playoffs, throwing to people who were making sandwiches at Subway before the season started. So there's just a lot of issues there, and I think the Rams, they look good against Dallas. They look like the old Rams. They didn't look like the Rams of last year. I don't want to buy into that too much yet, but going just off of Week 1 performances and the fact that I want to catch up to him in pick'ems, I took the Rams in this game. Could be dead wrong. This game was really hard for me to pick just based on the Week 1 performances, because if I had picked last week if they played in Week 1, I would have picked Philly. So, it's just one of those games that could go either way. I think it'll be pretty close. Like he said, I think it's going to be high scoring. Goff and Wentz should both put up tremendous amounts of numbers, so those are QBs to look out for this week in the fantasy department. Sheldon says time's up on this game. So, so I'm going to take the Rams in a very close one that could go either way. I would just avoid, if you're a bettor, avoid betting on that game. I just, especially if you bet spread, avoid betting. I think it's going to be very close. Yeah. Okay, Denver and Pittsburgh. Okay, so you guys are going to be shocked by who I pick here because Pittsburgh won and dominated, and Denver didn't look good at all against Tennessee, but I'm going to take Denver on the road. Denver's got too much potential to continue losing games like they lost on Monday. If the Broncos release the chains that they've locked Drew Lock into, no pun intended, they will score a ton of points. This kid is good. He's good. Anytime that he's actually able to throw the ball, he proves why he's good. They got too many weapons. Jerry Jeudy looked good on Monday. I know he didn't get a lot of chances to touch the ball, but when he did get the ball, he was electric. Get him the ball. Or Cortland Sutton might be back. I'm hearing some positive things from him. So he might be back this week. I'm not banking on it. That was not the reason I'm picking Denver. I just think Denver's got too much talent here to continue to lose. Where Pittsburgh is just one of those teams that beat teams they shouldn't beat, and then they lose to teams that had bad weeks the week before. They continue. They do this all the time. This is the Steelers' MO. Well, at least as of late, the last couple of years. I'm not saying their history, but the last few years, that's kind of how they've been. I expect a close, sloppy game here again, 20-16 or something like that, because I don't think they're ready to take the chains off of Drew Lock yet. But also watch out for Noah Fant. That guy's really good.
Mm-hmm. As much as I really wanted to pick Pittsburgh to win this football game, based on how good their defense is, I'm a believer in Drew Lock. And he didn't look the greatest for that football game, but he had some really shining moments, and I think that once he actually gets on the same page with his new wide receivers, with KJ Hamler and Jerry Jeudy, and Cortland Sutton comes back, I think that's going to be a really dangerous tandem. So I think that Denver's going to steal this game. It's not going to be a good-looking game. It's going to be very ugly. I wouldn't bet on this game either, but as much as I wanted to pick the Steelers to win this game, I couldn't do it. Big Ben, he says that after football games he feels like he gets hit by a bus or gets hit by a train. That's not a good thing to be saying to the media. I know Denver doesn't have a great defense, but if your quarterback is thinking, like, he compares how he feels after a football game where you win by, I think they won by 10 points. Where you win by double digits, and you're saying it feels like you got hit by a bus, that's just giving some fuel to the fire for Denver.
Expecting to blitz Bradley Chubb a lot.
Yes. Big Ben's not going to win this football game in my eyes. And so Denver's going to take it.
All right, Carolina, Tampa.
I know that everybody that's ever hated Tom Brady before was praising the fact. They said he looked terrible. Tom Brady did not look terrible in that football game. He had 2 bad interceptions, yes. But that guy is 163 years old. And he threw almost 260 yards and 2 touchdowns with like 65% completion. With guys that he hasn't been able to practice with in the offseason. Tom Brady's not washed up yet. He made a couple bad mistakes. Maybe there's something in the water in Tampa. But Tampa Bay is going to win this football game. Once they start clicking, I know that Godwin he's hurt. I think he's day-to-day.
Yeah, he's in concussion protocol.
Yeah.
But he might like game time decision.
He might not play, but I think Mike Evans is going to take the week off for practicing, so he'll be ready on game day. Because he played, he had a touchdown, but he wasn't full health. I think that
you can see he wasn't full health.
Yeah, they need him back and like 100% Mike Evans. So he's probably going to rest this week for practice, but I think Tampa Bay is going to win this football game. As much as Carolina impressed me, I don't think that they're going to beat terrific Tom. Tom Lover's out there. He's not done yet.
I'm almost the exact opposite with him with Tom Brady. I thought he looked terrible, but I don't think that he's bad. And I've said my whole life that I think the Patriots system played a lot into Brady's successes, but that doesn't mean I think he's a bad quarterback. At some point in time, age is going to hit you. He looked like he took a step back last year. I'm telling you, like, whether he's done completely or not, he's not the same Tom Brady that he was when he was 30. There were points in that game where he did look good. There were points in that game where he did look bad. Again, he hasn't had a preseason, so I'm gonna openly admit that it could be that we don't know. But even, and this is going on even if Brady is washed up, Tampa Bay has too much talent to be losing to Carolina, especially. I know division rivals can steal games, but especially coming off a game where now everyone's doubting Tampa. Okay, so like these are prove-it games where they don't take division rivals lightly. Okay, because that's usually how they steal them because they know Carolina's bad, so they're gonna walk all over them and then they lose, right? They're not thinking that right now. Okay, they're thinking we need to get a W because everybody thinks we're not that good. We're overhyped. Tom Brady's done. All that type of stuff, right? So these are the type of games they come out and they punch them in the mouth and they make a statement. I don't expect a terrible showing from Carolina. I think that they have enough talent on that team to make a lot of competitive games. I don't think they're a playoff team, but I think they can hang in there with teams. Teddy looked really good last week. Christian McCaffrey always looks really good. Robbie Anderson looked good. And this is without even DJ Morley at 4 catches, 50 yards. If he starts clicking and Robbie Anderson starts clicking, you might have some problems there stopping that offense in Carolina. So, plus their tight end Ian Thomas, everyone raves about him. Haven't really seen much from him yet, but he gets a lot of praise from critics. So I'm waiting to see that. So we'll see. But there's potential another weapon there that he could figure out how to use. But they're just not going to beat Tampa. There's too many things here. Like they've been talented for a few years now. I think Jameis Winston's been the problem. Brady threw 2 picks, but I don't think he's ever going to come close to throwing 30 picks on the season. Washed up or not, doesn't matter. He won't throw that many picks. So don't expect him to throw picks every week like he did against New Orleans. First of all, New Orleans is a really good defense too. So that's another thing I want to point out. They make life hell for a lot of QBs. So it's not just Brady. Carolina's not like that. Expect Tampa Bay to win a pretty competitive game that they kind of pulled away towards the end. Probably 34-21, 34-24, somewhere around there would be where I expect the score of this game to be. So moving on to the next game now, we got the Washington football team and the Arizona Cardinals. This is actually an interesting matchup after watching last week, because the Washington D-line against the Arizona offensive line is going to be a massacre out there. So this game is going to be closer than people think it is. Arizona came off a big win that I told everybody here was going to happen, but they match up really well against San Francisco. They do not match up well against the Washington defense. I'm still going to pick Arizona because the talent level there just surpasses Washington. And I don't know if Washington can do enough on offense to beat Arizona, but expect this game to be closer than what a lot of people are going to say it's going to be. You're going to see a lot of people out there, especially Arizona fans, they're going to be like, oh, we're going to destroy Washington because they're not a good football team. But when you're facing a defensive line that can just absolutely penetrate the offensive line like they can here, because Arizona's offensive line, for anybody who doesn't know, is not good. Kyler will be running for his life, but we got D-Hop went off last week.
100, yeah.
Okay, and that's not the only guy they got. They got Kirk only had one catch for no yards. Don't expect that to happen every week. Fitz still looks decently good. What was the other kid I can't think of?
Andy Isabella.
Thank you. Andy Isabella is always going to be there to be a factor. There's just too much there in Arizona, I think. Plus the fact that Kyler Murray can escape a lot better than Wentz could last week against a penetrating defensive line. So he'll be able to make more plays happen than Wentz did. I think that's why mobile quarterbacks, I think, are becoming more of a thing in the NFL, is because of their athletic ability, like Lamar and Kyler being able to, even when the defensive line gets in there, getting away. Wentz isn't not mobile by any means, but he's not Kyler Murray. So expect Murray to make more plays happen that way. This game will be close. I'm going to say that now. Arizona fans, you might be biting fingernails in the fourth quarter in this game, but they're going to win, so don't worry about it. Arizona, close.
Yeah, for all the Arizona fans out there that think, oh yeah, it's the Washington football team, we're going to just steamroll them. Trust me, I was there last week. Don't get too cocky on it, because even if you get a lead, they can come back. The Washington football team has 5 defensive linemen that are all first-round picks, and Arizona's biggest weakness on that offense is that offensive line. I know they've made strides to make it better, but it's not there yet. So Kyler Murray is going to be running for his life. He's going to make a lot of positive plays on the ground, and I have Arizona winning this football game, but it's not going to be a blowout by any means. I think it's going to take maybe a fourth quarter 2-minute drill from Kyler Murray to finally cap that game off. But Washington they're not as bad as everyone said they were. Their offense needs some help, but they can be a competitive team.
That defense will keep them competitive.
Exactly. Especially because there's going to be still chemistry issues with Kyler and his wide receivers. Look for it to be a close game, but Arizona is going to pull out and win that game.
Yeah, we're on the same page there. All right, Kansas City and the Chargers.
Oh, this one's not even fair. Kansas City, even though Houston made the score look closer in garbage time to make it look more respectable, Kansas City owned every aspect of that football game last week. They're going to do that even worse against the Chargers. Dylan, I'm sorry. I know you love the Chargers. I don't know why, but they're not going to go toe-to-toe with Kansas City.
And then 8 other people are really going to be heartbroken.
Yeah, that whole fan base. There's this, like, oh my God. I can count the fans. So, Edwards-Helaire, look for him to have a great game. Tyreek's going to have a bigger game than he had in week 1 because he really was kind of just more of a decoy in that game. He didn't really have very many big plays. But Kansas City wins this game very, very, very convincingly. Tyrod just doesn't have what it takes to compete with the Chiefs.
Yeah, he barely beat the Bengals.
Yeah.
And it took offensive pass interference and a missed field goal to do that.
Yep.
Yeah, if you don't think the Chiefs are that much better than the Chargers by looking at paper, which you'd be crazy to not, just know that Big Reds won 11 of 12 against the Chargers.
My boy.
So just think the Chargers also wanted Andy Reid in 2013. And they didn't get him, and now he's their worst nightmare. So, 11 of 12, and the best quarterback in football. I mean, who do you think I'm going to pick here? Kansas City should win this game, and they're going to win it easily. Okay, the Chiefs tend to struggle with Denver, but they don't really struggle with the Chargers. Okay, if anybody in this division is going to beat the Chiefs, it's going to be Denver, just because for some reason they can't blow them out. But they always blow out the Chargers.
I think that one loss with the Chargers had to, go for 2 with no time remaining to beat them by 1 point.
Yeah, they barely beat them even the one time they won.
I think Mike Evans caught that go for 2, and it was like, oh no, we've beaten the Chiefs. Okay, well, you beat the Chiefs when they already had the division locked up. They weren't playing for anything. So don't look for it to be that way this week.
Yeah, I would say put any money on the even if just put it on the spread. Chiefs are going to cover the spread easily. And expect the over just based on Chiefs points. They might hit the over on their own. The Chargers defense, they're not that good. They're not that good. You made Joe Burrow in his first start look like he looked comfortable. I know they only gave up 13 points, but you're talking about a Bengals team who had zero chemistry with their quarterback and just are a mess. Joe Mixon was fumbling the ball everywhere. I mean, he couldn't look like he couldn't find a hole anywhere. And you still gave up a lot of yards to the quarterback. And just Patrick Mahomes is going to make life miserable for him. If you can't make Joe Burrow look uncomfortable, what do you think Patrick Mahomes is going to do to you? I just want to tell you that now. I expect the Chiefs to score north of 40 points in this game. I mean, who knows? The only hope is that Patrick Mahomes sprains his ankle or something, because that's and even then, I still don't think they can beat the Chiefs.
It would need to be the first play of the game.
Yeah, it would need to be the first play of the game, and then the backup quarterback. Who's the backup quarterback there now?
Is it still Matt Moore?
Matt, they can't even beat Matt Moore. I watched Matt Moore go out there and beat teams better than the Chargers last year. Yeah. So, expect a blowout. This game, I think, was the easiest game for me to pick of the week. Mm-hmm. And it's not just because it was the Chiefs. It's just because of how these two teams match up, and it's not good. Chiefs are going to win convincingly. Next, Baltimore and Houston. This game's not going to be close either. Houston's not good. You can thank Bill O'Brien for that. Remember when I said that Adam Gase was the most incompetent football guy I've ever seen? Well, Bill O'Brien's pretty close. Just remember, if you have any questions, just go back to the D-Hop trade and ask yourself how he could even justify that.
He's done other weird ones too, like he gave away Jadeveon Clowney for some snacks found in the couch.
He just doesn't make good decisions. And their defense couldn't finish off Patrick Mahomes, and you're looking at an offense that looked better than the Chiefs last week. So imagine what they're going to do with Lamar running all over the place, and then you have Hollywood Brown taking off when they're trying to chase down Lamar, and then you have Mark Andrews going across the middle, who's going to catch the ball and lower his shoulder into one of their linebackers. Like get out of here. Like, the Chiefs should be just wanting to get past their first, 4 games of the season and never look back again, because they have, the toughest first 4 games ever. They're probably going to be 0-4 to start the season, and that's not a good look. Baltimore wins this game big. Expect a 24-point win here, or somewhere around that area. I'm not the best at predicting scores, but it's going to be in that ballpark. So, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
Yeah, I have Baltimore to win that football game, just like the Chiefs beat the Texans. I don't think Baltimore is going to win this game by 24 points, just because the Texans are really good at garbage time points.
That's true.
Will Fuller will eat in the fourth quarter, but that's just because they're going to be down big. I say Baltimore wins it by 13 points. But Baltimore is very scary. Houston's not so much. It's not a good time to be a Texans fan.
Yeah, sorry, Watson. I can't believe you agreed to sign an extension.
Yeah, I would have been out of
there. I'd have been out. Anybody would have paid you that money, Watson.
Yeah.
Anybody. New England at Seattle. This game will be interesting.
All right.
We're gonna. Sorry, it should have been your lead, but
no, you're gonna.
We're gonna really find out what New England really is this week, because playing the Dolphins doesn't really show you what you are. This will be a test. Bill Belichick, though, got the brains. The best coach in league history. Sorry, Vince Lombardi. I think Belichick's the GOAT. I expect this game to be close. It'll be close, but Russell Wilson's too good. I think sorry, Lamar Jackson, but Russell Wilson's the second best quarterback in the league. Brent mentioned that earlier. I totally agree with him 100%. Russell Wilson is damn near impossible to stop. And if he's throwing the ball to Tyler Lockett, good luck, because those guys never throw a bad pass to each other. I know they don't throw it to each other. You know what I mean, though. When he throws it to Lockett, it's almost money every time. Okay? And I think defense is starting to realize that, so they're paying too much attention to Lockett now. It's leaving everybody else on the field, wide open. He feasted Sunday. And he didn't look uncomfortable at all. I don't think there was one throw out there where I was like, oh, Russ looked bad on that throw. Even his incomplete passes, it was just I could have threw the ball better, but I looked fine. He didn't look like he was ever in any type of dire situation at all. And I think you get a lot of Russell Wilson moments like that in games like that. He just seems like a really relaxed quarterback that's extremely smart and knows what to do with the ball. And that poses big threats to anybody, even when he doesn't have as much talent as he does this year. He's carried worse teams to beat good teams in the past. And I would not, if I'm in the NFC right now, that's the team that scares me the most, is Seattle. They got a good coach, the best quarterback in the NFC. They got a lot of playmakers on the offense. DK's getting better. He can actually run routes now. When he came into the league, he couldn't run routes, so it's good to see him actually running something other than a streak. I've seen a lot of good footwork from him yesterday, even when he wasn't getting the ball. You could see him on the bottom of your screen, just making defenders fall over, and it was pretty to watch. So if DK starts gelling, and they got Lockett, plus Chris Carson. He only had 21 yards on the ground last week, but the guy is a threat in the air.
Yeah.
Russ threw 2 touchdowns to him. So I just think that's too much overall for New England. New England's got a good defense. They're going to keep in this game. Cam Newton will get his yards. Best receiving core in the NFC. I don't know about that, but I'm not sure I would say that. But they're good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not taking anything away with them. I don't think I'd say the best receiving core in the NFC.
I would disagree with that.
There's teams that could definitely fight for that title. I mean, have you seen Tampa Bay's receiving core?
I don't even have the Seahawks being a top 5 wide receiver core in the NFC. But that's me.
So I'm picking Seattle. I don't know what Brent's got to add to this.
So anybody that watched any highlights, because I don't think very many people were watching that Patriots game, Cam is back. He didn't look the best through the air, but really that wide receiver core in New England is suspect at best. But on the ground, he had 75 yards, 2 touchdowns. So Cam is back, and but I don't have him beating Seattle. Russell Wilson, second best quarterback in the NFL. It's in Seattle. And yeah, New England's defense is really good, but I think DK Metcalf is going to have the best game out of all those wide receivers. DK Metcalf just matches up so well against every cornerback in the NFL.
Doesn't matter who it is. It's a good matchup.
Yeah. He's like 6'5". He runs a 4.3. He's getting better with his routes, and his hands are solid. I think DK goes over the 100-yard mark. I don't think that Seattle wins this game convincingly because Belichick is very good at taking your best player out of the game. And for that, that's Russell Wilson. So look for Russell Wilson to not light up the scoreboard like he did against the Falcons. But I think it's good enough for them to win that football game. Russell Wilson is just... He's so underrated. Nobody gives him the credit that he deserves. They're starting to, but Russell Wilson, by 10 at least. Okay, I don't think that. I think this is... This football game might be Pete Carroll's chance to run it in from the 1-yard line and win the football game. That's how close the football game is going to be. Luckily, Malcolm Butler doesn't play for the Patriots anymore. Otherwise, they'd be in trouble.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be close. It's going to come down to the wire. Okay, New Orleans and Vegas. Go ahead, take it away. New stadium.
So it's the christening of Vegas's new stadium. Well, this is the Saints. The Saints are arguably the team to beat in the NFC. I have Seattle by a small margin, but the Saints are very good. Drew Brees is to the point where he's not going to light you up yardage-wise, but he's very, very, very proficient at what he does. Carr is going to be out there calling John Gruden's wife as audible again.
That was so funny.
They're having fun. They're loving it, but there's a difference between having fun playing a football game and going to play that football game to win. And the Saints are going to go in there, and it's not going to be a very close game. Drew Brees is going to he's going to do his thing, 70% completion. He might get 200 yards, 2 touchdowns, but Alvin Kamara is going to feast. That defense is getting better for the Raiders, but it's not quite there. Saints win this one by halftime.
Okay, so my upset pick of the week, I got the Las Vegas Raiders beating New Orleans in the opening of their new stadium. Okay, so teams always seem to play well when they open new stadiums. That's been proven. It's just an energy that goes through the team. They don't want to lose when they open these stadiums. It happened with the Rams. I don't think the Rams are as good as the Cowboys. They beat the Cowboys. This just happens. This is what happens. Okay, Michael Thomas is out. That's their biggest weapon. Okay, sorry Kamara, but Michael Thomas is better than you. As much as I hate Michael Thomas is better than you. I like what John Gruden is doing with this Raiders team. He literally destroyed the entire team when he came in, and then started building it in his image when he got here. And the team has consistently shown heart. Despite not winning all the time, they've shown that they have a lot of heart, and they're willing to fight for him, and they consistently get better. And that offense showed me a lot last week. I know they were playing Carolina, who's not very good, but they put up 30-plus points, and I think that's the first time Derek Carr's put 30-plus points on the board in a long time. Derek Carr looked good. It was the first time I've seen him actually. He only had 213 yards, but that's because that's all he had to do because Josh Jacobs was out there running touchdowns all over the place. Yeah. So, but Carr looked good. They weren't dink and dunk 213 yards. He was actually throwing the ball. He threw a beautiful deep ball to Ruggs early in the game. These wide receivers are young. They're hungry to prove themselves, right? The top 3 wide receivers, the oldest one is only a second year. I just think they got a lot of talent. Josh Jacobs is a beast. Darren Waller's really good. There's just too many weapons on this Raiders team, and I think losing Michael Thomas is going to hurt New Orleans, and there's just one game a year New Orleans loses to somebody that they should beat. It only happens once, but it happens every year, and it's going to come early this year in Week 2 against the Raiders after a big win over Tampa Bay. This is kind of where you have the hangover of that giant win you just have, and then you just kind of go out and shit the bed. As a Vikings fan, I'm very used to that. We do that consistently as well. This is where it happens in Vegas. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. Nobody take my word. Please don't put any money on the Raiders, okay? I'm taking them as an upset, and I just gave you the reasons why it could be an upset. But I would never bet against the Saints, so don't do that. But that's who I'm picking for my upset this week. So I'll be here to rub it in your face like I did at Arizona last week.
And for the opening stadiums thing, I know the Rams technically opened SoFi, so the Chargers are not going to do it with their home opener with the Chiefs. Just don't put money on that either, even though the Chargers finally get to open up the stadium. There's a reason why the Rams got the first home game.
I don't even count that as opening it up because somebody's played there now. So it doesn't count. It doesn't fall in the same category.
When the city doesn't even want you as the team, like, you didn't open it up. The Rams did. That's the stadium even looks like the Rams logo. Like, that's the Rams stadium. The Chargers are just lucky enough to play